Now about the two topics, and these are going to be expert opinions. One of them will be how to strategically reach different groups in society. There will be various practical stories, experiences, and then we are going to have also institution representatives and involved in policy making. It will be a wider, more broader discussion how to contribute to the development of media literacy strategy in Latvia. And let us start with the first discussion. Definitely, I can say that how to implement strategically for reaching these different groups in society. Of course, we're interested in those which are the most difficult to reach, or so to say, immune to information consumption differently than the traditional resources. So maybe they do not trust some of the resources. Let us begin with understanding why they do not trust. Maybe there are some issues about this media literacy factor and how we can plan such strategy in order to reach these groups. So currently, I will introduce you to members of the discussion. One of them will be Klinta Ločmele, media literacy expert, head of the IREX Baltic media literacy program at the University of Latvia. And she is also docent of various courses in the University of Latvia and Vidzeme University College. She is directing various trainings. Solvita Denisa Liepniece, advisor to Executive Director of the Baltic Media Center of Excellence on disinformation issues. She's also a researcher in Valmiera University College, international communication and information resilience. Zane Matisoviča, and she, Ginta Zaltsmane, head of information services and interlibrary loan department of National Library of Latvia. Previously mentioned Zane Matisovič is director at British Council Latvia. And Ginta Zaltsmane works with the topics of media literacy also. Kaspars Rūklis is a program manager for already mentioned IREX media literacy in the Baltics, both in Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. And led by Kaspars with communication programs in 6 universities, they are developing curriculum with media professionals of the future. So, hello to everyone. Do you hear us? This is my recording now. Yes, everybody says they can hear us very well. We are first going to ask Klinta Ločmele, media literacy expert, head of the IREX Baltic media literacy program at the University of Latvia. What is, what you would say, the most important keywords or answers to the question how to strategically really reach those different groups in society if we're talking about media literacy? Thank you very much for introduction. Thank you for the opportunity to participate. And in my brief introduction, I will also speak about my experience from working from 2015 to 2019 in the Ministry of Culture and later as an educator of media literacy and in programs of media literacy. I will be harsh and I will say that first of all we need to get rid of the idea that we can reach all groups of societies, that we can reach it with our curriculum, our content of media literacy, regardless of how good, how well developed and thought out strategies we have. If the person does not have interest in this topic, if they do not accept the processes on their part, then we're not going to reach them. So currently, I would draw the parallels and also compare it with the information regarding vaccines. There are society groups we cannot reach, and most probably the parallels also can be drawn to what kind of people we can reach with media literacy content. Right now, looking at what we have or what kind of content in social platforms, then I think that there is a group of people who already believe to be themselves to be experts, and so they do not need any other skills and tools for media literacy. However, also I would like to speak about the positive aspects and maybe more poetic. Vai Imants Ziedonis, the words said by Imants Ziedonis, the poet of Latvia. In order to be closer, just come closer. Don't wait for them to become closer or come. Working with the Ministry of Culture, Media Policy, we also conducted many projects for youth, for children, for teenagers, superheroes on the internet, or Denisa Liepniece, manipulator tool. So we sent this information directly to schools, to school email addresses. So maybe there they did not read, they did not open some of the emails, maybe something was left in the mailbox of the principal. However, the feedback we received was really good. Also, the last year project, this traffic signs of media literacy, this project for seniors, we went closer. And we didn't wait for them to come closer. We went to regional libraries. We organized meetings with seniors there in their towns and cities and in their libraries. And we also communicated directly to librarians. Thank you very much to Latvian National Library. They provided a great direct platform so that librarians, so that seniors can meet all together regarding the experience on reaching out to the youth. Kaspars Rūklis is going to tell more, so I'm not going to devote more time to that. But all their efforts, I really praise them. The basic course and curriculum they have, not only in IREX involved, but also in Vidzeme University. I'm glad about this initiative, and I think it is productive. And the feedback we receive from the educators, also by receiving invitations to direct courses and seminars, also we receive. So it means that the educators have also understood the significance of this. And lastly, I would like to say Media Support Fund and for media literacy improvement since 2017. They are the ones who invite media to get involved in various projects, to also apply with these projects, and we have planned also the category media literacy development and deconstruction of lies. Of course, we can speak about quality. What is the quality of those projects? Unfortunately, some of them don't go further than questions, interviews, like what are the recommendations for fighting misinformation. And then again, I can say that the quality improves. The topics are broader, and we are speaking about groups of people who we cannot reach out after they finish schools, after they graduate from university. So this is why also there are other stakeholders whose importance is very large. Thank you. This was all from my introduction, and I'm looking forward to fruitful discussion. We are now then asking Zane Matesoviča. Let us find out about her views regarding how to reach different groups in society more successfully. Because from Klinta we heard that sometimes it is not possible, but that doesn't mean that we don't need to do anything, right? I will share a little presentation. Can you hear me well? Yes? British Council is NGO in the United Kingdom, and some people say, well, what is their relation with the media literacy? Indeed, we are implementing now various projects very closely related to media literacy, which is trainer of educators in the field of media literacy. Also, we have programs with local partners where we are also conducting different activities in social groups, in local social groups. So, very honest response to the question you asked, how to reach various groups. I must say, I also do not know this. So far, have not found the solution. We are all trying to find one. And I can say, I can also share with share the several methods we have used in our project. And in our view, we believe they have been productive. One thing Zana Wolina also mentioned, that other experts mentioned, that the media literacy is the skill of the 21st century. We do need to put it inside any curriculum and in professional associations on their agenda. So it is not like a central element of any project, but it is a topic which is always there, involved in the activities, especially thinking about what are the particular interests of the audience of the project. For example, the colleague from Ministry of Culture said, for example, debate clubs. British Council has supported such activity for already 5 years. And the focus should be on involving schools from more remote regions, especially those working with minorities, so that this activity of debate is reachable for larger audience. And also any media literacy improvement and development, this is a transversal topic in many various programs. Media clubs in communities, this is facilitating local partner organizations. These are basically virtual forums where we can meet. The platform where unfortunately for last 3 years only in Zoom, but we nevertheless connect to discuss the questions raised by local media, and there we are discussing both traditional lectures, discussions also, but also we have used theater methods like role plays of different activities between the participants. We can reach, of course, various cultures, various age groups of people. We have seen people gladly participating because they understand this is for their own benefit, obtaining new knowledge and skills. And also what is very beneficial for these media clubs is the opportunity to exchange information between different bubbles of information. So this is, so to say, well, they dilute slightly what they have in their own bubbles, and this is how they create new communities. And very briefly, another idea or method we have used in various ways, it is the creation of media content. It means that the participants of the project are involved in media content creation, and thus, through practical learning, they learn how information content is created, and then it is easier for them to navigate and also be a more aware consumer of media. This is a very interesting activity, and what we have observed, this is suitable for older school children, also people who are active in social media, people who write blogs, and maybe even journalists of local newspapers. Another thing I want to say is that we think close relations with local communities and local NGOs is very important, not just in the way that we support their ideas, but we are strengthening their capacity and broadening their awareness and knowledge about the topic, ensuring that after the end of our support, their activities continue and are sustainable. Thank you. That is very briefly from my part. Zana Matisoviča, thank you, Director of British Council Latvia. But now we are going to listen to Ginta Zaltmane, Head of Information Services and Interlibrary Loan Department of National Library of Latvia. And I would like to know what has been your experience so far with media literacy improvement, and from your perspective, how would you say how to reach different groups in society while looking at it strategically? What your experience says about this? Thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity to participate, and as a representative of Latvian National Library, I am very glad to share my experience for a long time already. National Library is implementing various projects and activities on the topic of media literacy, and we are continuing work in this direction. We are addressing schools, school children, teachers to do this work. Now, as we understand Latvian National Library, as you understand, it is reference, it is resource, and the question is about how to use this resource. I will also share my presentation. It is on the screen now, and I want to say today about our experience in media literacy education. I have also heard from several participants that we are also learning. We are learning the same way as we are still now developing our skills of media literacy and obtaining information more consciously. Currently, our program, Media Literacy Classes program, is for a Latvian program, Latvijas School Soma, the backpack of school, and it is intended to reach and to work with teachers that they need to conduct such classes, and they need to work with media literacy. This format works very well. Schools like it. They also come to us. They're very keen to go. Unfortunately, though, right now the circumstances are complicated. However, no problem there is to do this also online. Of course, if they're present, that's easier. And what is the content of these classes, and what is media literacy, and what is media? We conduct these classes to understand that we live in a times of broader information consumption and turnover, and we need to learn to navigate this information flow. Also, we need to direct our attention towards propaganda, fact-checking. Also, we have practical tools for this, and upon developing this plan of the classes, I also take any available resource. I look in the direction of Ministry of Culture. I know how they research and what kind of good practice examples can be used, and how I myself, as a teacher of those classes, how I can teach what are the best resources and what would be the practical tools. Living in a virtual bubble, all these are very important aspects, and in our view I want to add also that thinking about practical tasks, for example, fake news identification, and there I see that, for example, it's a fact that it's not easy to find ideal examples with which we can work, because we need to consider that the length of the class is limited. And I have also had experience that the class, we are working on fake news identification, but we find that I find that our class is and the duration of classes is limited, so I'd rather do maybe some practical class instead of lecturing about it. And also thanks to Latvian National Commission and thanks to the University of Latvia Social Sciences Faculty and Guna Spura, director of the department, we have had a great, and also thank you to Nordic Council, sorry I didn't mention, we have had great cooperation with student groups and student uh, group media literacy awareness raising classes. We had two of them where we had a lot of attendees. One was uh, influencers literacy, and another was social media platform literacy. We gathered representatives of many aspects, and here we can see very interactive and how girls were performing, and we met influencers themselves. It was very topical for young people, and also TikTok literacy was also an interesting class. So you can imagine that there were so many attendees, and everybody was very interested, and the young people are very interested in these topics indeed. And now talking about the pandemic environment, online platforms is what allows us to continue our practice. This is not only schools, not only educators. Latvian National Library also conducts a course of 12 classes, which is professional development, information on media literacy, and also this course is for educators, and they educate themselves on the topics of media literacy. And currently, very actively, we work with public library librarians. In the same way, there are classes online where we are speaking about media literacy issues, because we are Latvian National Library. This is our task. This is how we perceive this, to educate people and society in this topic. This is in brief. Thank you. Thank you very much. So far.
Thank you very much. So thank you to Ginta Zaltsmane, the representative and the head of the Department of the Latvian National Library. And I'm happy to see that the number of participants has increased. So we have also invited also other participants here in the discussion, and we see also Kaspars Rūkus, who can present. So he is the head of the Baltic Media Council, and Kaspar's happy to see you here. And please tell what you can tell in relation to the achieving various groups of the public, because what we perceived from the previous speakers, we will not be able to reach all the groups. Also to the previous speaker, I would like to ask, and maybe I will have a chance to ask later. So which are the groups of the public you don't meet and don't educate in media literacy, but you would like to? So Kaspars, are you ready to continue? Hello, Talis. Yes, I am ready. Thank you very much for this opportunity to participate and tell what we do. So I must agree to Klinta that this is not possible, and so the Education for Education IREX, with headquarters in Washington, the US, works in hundreds of countries, including also since December 2019. We have a small office in the National Library of Latvia, small office for the Baltic states. And just in short, I will tell about our organization, what we are and what we do. So for those for whom this program is something new, it's going to be easier to understand. So this is a 4 years program implemented by the US State Department, and also implemented by IREX, the non-governmental organization, educational organization. And so Our goal is to research critical media and the use of information among the Baltic population, and we use the approach learn to discern approach to the media literacy. In our case, we draw attention to a very specific audience, the journalists, students, journalists, and also practitioners of communication. And we also have a little element where we work with the youth audience, high schoolers mainly. And also it is important for us to work with Russian-speaking audience with all three Baltic countries, especially in the Baltics and Estonia. And if you looked at the research and look at the nationalities, you would see that for Russian speakers, these skills and understanding is a little bit different from Latvian, Lithuanian, and Estonian speakers. And our main goals is to work with journalists to be, with youth, and also similar to other projects, we also encourage students and youth people to create their own content to fight the disinformation and also offer them the opportunity to develop small projects about uh, possibilities how to raise this awareness. We work both in Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. Our largest challenge is that we speak in 5 languages. There is a lot of information, and many persons involved, and I will not speak long this time. That would require a broader discussion, but we very carefully follow what are the results of our work, and we also measure what impact we have made with specific media literacy training in various audiences, so both for universities and also for young people. If we talk about the strategic part, so just in short, how the university part of our program works. So first of all, the first thing we have already completed is that we, in cooperation with 6 Baltic universities for all the largest public universities now, in cooperation with those universities, we have implemented at least one or in several, in some also several courses, which are journalists in the age of disinformation. So this is for the journalists to be, and also for them not to have a situation that those who worked to disinform the public use mass media to deliver this information to broader circles of public. We know that in Latvia and also in other Baltic countries, that the public media actually can be fooled. And also Klinta, who was participating here, she worked with this course in the University of Latvia. She helped to develop and organize this course, and will also have continuation in cooperation with all these 6 universities in order to develop additional materials about media literacy. Because as many speakers said, media literacy is something which is not all the time standing on the spot. All the time something that comes, something new comes. So these courses all the time has to be updated, and we want to facilitate this process. Another future activity we are planning, and this is going to be in stage 2, because in spite of the fact what Gunta said, that the projects are financed for short term, we can say that our project was financed for 2 years, and now it's going to be 4 years, and so we hope that even more. So we have an opportunity to expand this strategic cooperation at the level of the tertiary institutions, and adding 6 more universities, so 2 in each of the Baltic states. And we will continue working with the universities that are training and teaching and preparing the journalists to be, and also practitioners working with media. We also want to draw more attention to train the teachers to be, and how they are trained, and how we can implement media literacy courses in their um, studies programs using these transversal skills and transversal skills approach and how to present this topic to the teachers to be. We also work with young people, high schoolers. In our case, we do it in very simple way. We are working with experts from all three Baltic states, also from Latvia, and we have adjusted and adapted internationally developed. Originally, actually, it was developed in Ukraine, this media literacy material, Learn to Discern, uh, and we created a broad learning program for all the Baltic states. And one book looks like this. There are about uh, 13 hours, and this is a material that can be used working with young people who are civic activists, and we spoke to them through various channels, and they responded that they are ready to participate, and we trained them to become trainers and later share their skills with their peers, because we understand that in youth audience it is very complicated. If a teacher or adult comes, there is a certain barrier and it's quite hard to reach the audience, but we wanted to use the principle peer-to-peer, and that we also used for this youth training. So we have 400 trainers, and most of them, of course, are not active because there is a pandemic and it is difficult. But also, we have some good examples, a lot of good examples. For example, in Ludza secondary school, all the secondary schools school classes were trained. So our trainer did it, and also in other school it was done. So about very practical and less practical questions. And in the perspective, in the next 2 or 1.5 years, we are planning to develop a new media literacy course, which is now available in Ukrainian, English, and Russian for Ukrainian audience, and we will develop a very similar one for the Baltic audience, Russian, English, Latvian, Lithuanian, and Estonian, and with the goal for this course to be internet-based, and anyone who is interested can use it. Of course, the target audience is high schoolers, but we know from the Ukraine experience that can be used much broader for other audiences. So right now we are working with development of the course, and we hope that it will be ready in spring next year. And also we work with public communication. We cannot cover all the audiences, but we are trying to do everything that possible. When the pandemic started, it was important to wash hands, not to disseminate the virus. So we created Wash Your News campaign, which was at the same time training material and also social media campaign. So we encouraged people to think about very, very simple things in order to increase their media literacy skills. We are also big fans of various months and weeks. We organize uh, our Baltic Media Literacy Month, and we involved several people whom you recognize from these pictures. Some of them are also from Latvia, and we invited them to speak to the youth audiences how to distinguish the high quality information from not so high quality information. So for 1 month we had several things, and in more intense way we promoted young people to use the knowledge they have acquired during our training and tell others about skills. And right now we are participating in several events, also in schools. We didn't succeed very good this week because there are still school holidays, but next week we will continue. We also participated in UNESCO. We participate in this UNESCO week also with our activities. And the last thing I wanted to show that but we also work with social media in order to, we are reacting to the situation, and we are trying to, in various different ways, speak to the youth audience with about several things which are important for media literacy, and we have added also exercises to help them and also to show how to take care of digital welfare, well-being. So if you want to see all these posts in Latvian, English, Estonian, Lithuanian, or Russian, you can follow and look at follow the IREX Baltic's social media channel. So that's all. If you have interest in cooperation or getting to know something new, I am always open. Right now, of course, I'm working from home, but yes, we will think how to more strategically achieve it. And those skills, media literacy skills are needed. So thank you very much to Kaspars Rūpus, IREX Baltic's media program manager. Kaspars, stay please with us, but right now let us turn to Solvita Densaliepniece from the Baltic Media Excellency Center. She is connected to us. And so what would you say? What are the things which we are trying to keep the focus in relation to the strategic reaching of various groups of the public? So what are the ways how strategically reach the wider, the more, as much as possible people? So we saw students, youth, teachers, librarians. So looking at those who would themselves never come to us, and they could be accessible, but they are not accessed enough. So do you see any opportunity how to look at this strategically? Thank you very much for this question. Thank you for this event. Definitely talking about the strategic, the main thing is, do we understand the audience? Do we have the ways, the means, the methods for us to start a conversation about media literacy with the audience? So do we know this, for example, a lady in a small town. This is a mystical image. We sometimes speak about it and think how to reach this person. So from my point of view, me as a researcher, so how do I start a work where with the projects where there are media literacy elements? So do I know not only what a lady in Bauska town or an uncle in Daugavpils town do? Do we know who they communicate to, who give them information, how they would act? So, for example, let's assume that the lady from Bauska town, she participates in a knitting Facebook group, and maybe some fake news, disinformation comes into that. And so in order to understand it, I have to speak to this lady and to understand how she thinks. And I believe all the experts said it, and thank you that you put those experts together. We cannot be able to deal with this problem without a specific audience. So for each project, there is a very specific audience. Right now, the Media Excellency Center in Latvia works together with Estonian Center related to the security. And we work with journalists in journalists who work in Latvia and Estonia at the eastern border. And this project is already a year and a half, and we are just researching to come up with a program, how to speak to these regional journalists. So if we talk about the audience, here I am a happy researcher because international organizations turn to me, and not always I am able to speak publicly about this data, but I can use the knowledge in media literacy projects. And what we see, if we look at the public as a whole, when we turn it, it looks so multifaceted. We turn it a little bit, and let us not look what media they consume, but how they behave. And then we would see a totally different image in this kaleidoscope. So it keeps changing, and therefore, this research is, I will offer a medical metaphor. So if there is somebody, a person being operated, and the surgeon is doing the surgery. So first of all, we need to draw the specific blood tests and tests to understand what's happening with the body of the person. And it's not very useful to use tests done 3 years ago. We need to have fresh data. And also for our intervention, we need fresh data. And so therefore, thanks to our supporters, one of the first projects with Baltic Media Excellency Center was for teachers, and in 2016 we went to schools and we organized workshops, and we also were gathering the information. We were working with teachers and trying to understand what are their uh, wishes and what are the competences. And we had conversations and discussions, and then we were able to understand. And after that, when the British Council came and said that we are ready to support the media literacy activities, then we um, started thinking about these programs. So also we were thinking about audiences, primary audience, teachers and students, and secondary audience, journalists. And journalists, when they were preparing for these classes with students, they needed to review their knowledge to improve it. And also we had the third level secondary audience, those were parents and families. And this is also a very important audience, and we often tend not to think about them because we always speak about young people and seniors, but we also have family communication, and that is very important. It is important what we use in order to communicate, what knowledge, how do parents exchange knowledge with children, and this is also we organized projects, and I would like to say thank you to Linda, who worked for the Ministry of Culture, and in 2018 this book was created, and now we translated it also in Russian, and we were able to publish this book in Russian, thinking about the minorities, and we were also able to disseminate it thanks to the National Library, both in schools and libraries, and we also created posters with Wolf as the main hero, and also for the British Council. The British Council created a creative video, and we see how this cooperation is so important. And cooperation not only with the supporters, but also cooperation with researchers is vitally important for us to be able to implement very specific projects in very specific time, speaking to a very specific audiences. So that was just for the introduction.
Thank you. Solvita Denis Liepniece. Time runs very quickly, so I will try to also ask this most important question to all of you participants of the discussion. So here we definitely understood that both extremes is bad, whether to reach all the audiences or maybe not to reach any audiences. But what if, and if we're speaking about this in the conferences, media literacy in the whole state and its strategy in the whole country, many speakers have admitted, whether it's a law or concept or anything, or any kind of document, that we need such. So what are the things without which we wouldn't manage? So for us to reach maximum, to reach most possible amount of social groups. Maybe one thing or several things or directions which we definitely need, maybe even approaches without which we cannot do, so that we are not left with those actives, so that, as Solvita mentioned, to reach also the families and parents and the grandparents. So let us start also as previously. So let's start with Klinta Ločmele. Maybe very briefly you can answer this question. Thank you. Very briefly, 3 things. First of all, we need to start with the system of education, even with preschool, then school, and so on, to promote in Latvia this approach which I learned in Washington in August. There is the system that there are small grants available in order to implement media literacy programs in particular schools. It works very well. There's one person responsible in whole school regarding media literacy, and that person develops with what kind of specific tasks media literacy is going to be learned. So these are small programs. We're not speaking about several tens of thousands, but maybe a couple of thousands of euros, and that would be significant and important in Latvia. And second thing, which I think is very important in Latvia, is to speak, and to speak in ever more platforms, to reach youth, to reach seniors. Again, an example from America, IREX program, and also in other programs and projects. The young people themselves are creating TikTok publications, TikToks, and also publish in different other social platforms. This through humor, they explain the media literacy, they debunk various disinformation, they are offering fact-checking, and they have 15,000 followers on Instagram, which is approximately the same as maybe part of the influencers in the particular region. So this is the way how to reach young people in their environment where they are present. And thirdly, the leadership significance. Of course, it is more difficult to implement this in various documents, but as I can see also in Latvian example, for communities where they are not maybe interconnected online, but they have a common opinion leader who also speaks about media literacy. So we see there are senior organizations in Latvia with very active leaders. They organize various events, how to identify, for example, fake news and other activities. So with that leader of opinion transmitting this information, and this will be very successful. Very well. This also corresponds to Finnish experience, where they are not creating this policy as a mandatory thing, but they are inviting various communities and groups to use this tool locally, so they can see better what is necessary for them. British Council Latvia Director is Anna Matisoviča. Now, in the United Kingdom, media literacy strategy or concept is implemented in the United Kingdom, as you said. Thinking about such document in Latvia, what shouldn't we forget about in order to reach more social groups here in Latvia? Klinta very successfully said everything like from the book, very structurally well, and it is indeed community involvement is very important. It needs more attention. Sometimes we think, oh well, let us just work with young people because you cannot re-teach the older people, but definitely with these leaders, let us search for those leaders. If we don't see them, we do need to strengthen various community activities. They should be conducting these activities together, not only maybe fixing some benches in their community. So we must help them to go out of the social bubbles, especially they are inside there at their computers, and it is very pronounced that they are in their bubbles indeed, and this possibility and opportunity to be together with the community, to participate in various activities, talk to them, meet them, this has a very great importance in the aspect of media literacy training and also in broadening the perception of the world, and also thus using the media resources, and they can also find new sources of information for themselves personally on which they can base later their opinion. I agree totally, fully to everything that Klinta said, this community resource and working with it. It is the way to go, both on a national level, and also municipalities need to be stimulated to exploit their resource, not just once in 4 years when they go to elections. Zana Matasovica, Director at British Council, Latvia. And so we can go to Zana Ginta Zaltmane, Head of Information Services in National Library of Latvia. You were talking about the teachers, minorities, family members, audiences. You most probably, well, you would say, you can reach them very easily through schools, through libraries. But what are the key moments where we should be more involved in the whole state, in particular communities where our reach is too short, is limited? Maybe we can also adopt this in a bigger strategy. How you see it? Thank you very much. Thank you for the question and the opportunity to express my opinion from the perspective of Resource Department and National Library. I feel that the resource is dispersed. It is, we can find those common points and maybe departments or platforms where we can find a lot of reference information for each member of the society and everyone who is interested in their community, or maybe in public library where they can start learning media literacy or recommend to their surroundings to go and learn. The question is whether they can find it or not. So ideally, there should be some single united platform resource which accumulates and compromises all these resources, LSM, public media platforms, so that it just, there is, well, through it we can also publish it further, popularize, raise awareness. Kaspars, your activities are so interesting. I will go now and research this. I would really like to see some single approach, some repository of information, something that can call us all to more action and activity. So this would help in working with people, definitely. And if you mention Kaspars, then I also turn to you. He also highlighted in a great way, and indeed, you can only envy the activities and their scope. But in your work, what do you feel, what is the difficulty for you to reach the society groups, and where the attention must be directed more? Because there are groups which are more difficult to reach. Thank you, Talis, for your question. I understand what you're saying, but first I would like to say in 3 points, as Klinta also did, and also Ginta, I will gladly cooperate, really. It is, we actually work almost in in one building, but this maybe has not been the best time to meet, but this is how far we are, although so close. So first point, I would say we need to be more brave. There are many aspects. We talk a lot about how we research, what do we have, what we don't have, but we never have consensus and we never go to the real activity. We never reach the people in Latgale, very remote region, people who don't want to vaccinate. And this is the first thing. I want us to be more brave. If we look at our neighbors in Estonia, where there is a book for media literacy in high school, we don't have. We have so many resources, very high quality resources. Nobody has taken this opportunity, not written the book for people who are not communication experts. Let us be more brave, courageous for this resource to be available for a broader public. The second thing, and Tālis question answering is, yesterday watching Panorama, the news, we couldn't solve this very simple question. We cannot reach the people who do not speak Latvian as their mother tongue. So it is very difficult to reach them. It is very difficult to offer products and services for them. Maybe, and we also oftentimes have a situation that we have translated materials into Russian and that they are being used for Latvian education. So the third point is, and also which IREX does as an organization they would like to see in Baltic states, in Lithuania too, and also partially in Estonia, we see it already being used, that media literacy is being taught on a more serious level in higher education. Not only transversal, there has to be a separate program. In Estonia currently there is, in Vilnius they're working towards implementing this. They will have a beautiful name for it, definitely, and anyways, it is going to be a separate course for every student learning in their higher education facility. This is going to be this recommendation I have. Thank you, Kaspars, for this. And one more digitally and virtually present person, Solvita Denisa Liepniece. How would you say, what is that in this bigger strategy we shouldn't forget about in order to reach, if not all, but those community groups which are more difficult to reach? Thank you for the question. If at the very beginning I was talking about that we need to have a look microscopically the very little cell of each of those aspects, then now I'd say that we need to use this zoom out approach. Also, I agree with Kaspars, who said that in Lithuania, in Estonia and globally, what Klinta mentioned, to facilitate the cooperation, we should have cooperation. Nordic Council, British Council organized these trips. We went on Sonia Livingston to meet her, to speak about the areas which are important. And in such a zoom out approach, I can say that, and I can also agree with Kaspars that, well, actually, we not only have something to complain about, but we also have something to show. We have great examples, we have knowledge, and knowledge must be shared. This is what I'm doing currently in New York. In one of the centers of the University of New York, I know that this knowledge I will be able to apply in Latvia. So the first approach, zoom out. Another thing is longitudinality. So just we have the program or projects which have been successful. If it is proven, we need to prolong them so that later we can also research its impact. And the third aspect, in my opinion, and the most important one, now we're speaking about media, we are mentioning various platforms, but in 20 years, or maybe 5 years, or maybe in 1 year time, is the youth going to still be on TikTok? So, re-evaluation of how we see media literacy. Is it centered around some media, or is it centered about a person who reacts to information? Or is it communication literacy in essence, how we can control and direct our emotions? Maybe we should teach our children actually to react to these emotions which direct them. Maybe something that actually makes them look in TikTok. With children, we're not going to be talking about value system, but still we can explain to them what is good and what is bad. And I think that this last point is related to human-centric approach. It is a media literacy directed towards the future. It is where we find support, where we look at how our audience develops, and the basic element must be directed towards the future. Thank you very much. Thank you, Solvita Denisa Liepniece, and thank you to all participants of this discussion. And this is one of the goals of this conference, also objective we have reached. It is for media literacy experts to meet and discuss. Thank you, Solvita, Kaspars, Ginta, and Zana, and Klinta. Definitely in one or